Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to kind of do a post video on Zack Snyder's Justice League. I kind of did a before video, a review of that, and now I'm going to kind of do a post because some stuff has kind of come up in the last few days, more specifically coming from Warner Brothers, that's kind of surprised me a bit. I don't really understand their stance on this in the sense of how they're presenting it. But basically what happened in the days following Zack Snyder's Justice League, because the movie ends on a cliffhanger, the fans understandably wanted to pressure Warner Brothers to see if they could to see if they would be interested in the idea of a sequel. You know, Warner Brothers got bombarded with this stuff. Now, keep in mind, Zack Snyder's Justice League actually crashed HBO Max the first day it was out. Crashed it multiple times to the point where they had to literally take the website offline at points to get it rebooted and get it fixed, which they eventually did. But that is insane that they had that much traffic going through there that it actually crashed the site, or it actually crashed the streaming service. But the problem is that Warner Brothers has literally closed the door on this. They've stated that they will not be doing anything else in the Snyderverse, or whatever they want to call it. The Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, that type of universe. They're not moving forward with anything else in that timeline. They're going to continue with the timeline they've developed currently. And I think that's a mistake by them to shut that door so abruptly and so with such finality. Because again, I understand it from stuff like the Air cut of Suicide Squad. Like, I don't think a director's cut is going to fix that movie. I'm sorry. The only reason why I was really interested in the Snyder cut was because of the size of the content that was included in it, and the amount that was trimmed from the theatrical cut that was added in post Snyder, after Snyder's involvement. That was really what I was more interested in at the time, and I got a really good movie out of it. Well, they got a really good movie out of it, but I really enjoyed that film. So it was kind of it was a win-win in that sense. But now you have this kind of weird situation that Warner Brothers is in, where they've continued with this other universe, but they're also being pressured to continue with the Snyder universe. Now, the problem I have with them closing the door so abruptly is they have the Elseworld stories now. You have stuff like Joker. You have stuff like the Batman. You have stuff that's happening outside of that main DC sphere, the DCEU, that universe, that has nothing to do with it, and is just telling individual stories about these characters and using different actors and stuff like that. But I don't think it would be a bad idea to continue on and make a sequel to Snyder's Justice League, because I think that he obviously has enough material there to make both of those sequels in terms of, the amount. I don't think they have scripts, or at least if they do, they're probably spec scripts right now. But they have a through line right now that they can develop from. So it's not like there isn't a story to be told there. The story is there to be told. The only issue I would say that would hinder them from doing it is budget. Because the thing is that the Snyder Cut, I'm curious what it's going to wind up doing at the end of the day for Warner Brothers. Again, we may not never know that information, because Netflix doesn't usually release a lot of stuff either for their numbers and stuff for the streaming. But if the quarterly reviews for 2021, or not the quarterly reviews, but the quarterly reports, the financial reports for Warner Brothers are probably, I think they have their investors meeting and stuff like that in April, which would make sense since I think the quarterly ends at the end of March. So at the end of March, they're going to be able to see what the numbers were for the Snyder Cut between when it came out, which was, I believe, March 18th, and when the month ended, which is only going to be a matter of less than 2 weeks, 13 days, or 12 days. And when those numbers come in, if those numbers are not ignorable, if those numbers are insane and they can't ignore them, then they're probably going to try and move forward with some form of a sequel on this. Because here's the other thing about Hollywood, that it's a double-edged sword a lot of the time, is if something makes money, they don't just let it sit there. They need to have that thing keep making money. It unfortunately usually winds up with things being driven directly into the ground. But usually in the early to mid days of it, if it's successful, it puts out some pretty good stuff. Again, you can look at the MCU for that with a lot of those early films, stuff like Iron Man or Captain America: The First Avenger, which were really good films. But moving over to the DC side of things, I keep talking about Marvel because comparing and contrasting them at this point is interesting. But moving over to the DC side of things, it's odd that they'd close that door. I figured if you're going to put out a press statement about it, this is probably how it would most likely read, because you don't want to close the door on this. Is the idea of we are not currently developing a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League, but we are open to the idea. And that's the other thing, too, that is interesting to me, is that Warner Brothers knows for a fact how tenacious the people with the hashtag Snyder Cut movement were, or are. And you're closing the door in those people's faces for a second time, and you don't expect them to then come back and say, no, you don't get to do this shit to us again. No, you're making the sequel. Not even a day after their initial statement that they weren't going to continue with the Snyder Universe, I believe the hashtag Restore the Snyderverse, I believe, is the hashtag that started cropping up on Twitter quite a bit. So those people are still there, and they are ready to fight another battle. But hopefully they won't have to. Hopefully the investor meeting that's going to happen at Warner Brothers is going to show them that they're going to... Actually, I don't even know if it would technically be an investor meeting, but it's basically the end of the quarterly reports for the company that are going to go around to the investors and and the people that run the company. Once those go around and people start seeing those numbers, I have a funny feeling that Warner Brothers is probably going to change their tune on this pretty quick. But again, this feels like kind of a snafu. But again, we have to look at Warner Brothers in this light too. Warner Brothers, and we know this for a fact at this point because we've seen both of the alternate cuts of these movies. Warner Brothers fucked over Batman v Superman because we've seen the ultimate cut of that film, and it is superior to the theatrical cut. It makes the theatrical cut make a lot more sense. And then now we move over to the big one, which is Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like, this thing got done no justice in the process of making it originally. It was a disservice to release that film in theaters. It was ridiculous. And the things that Warner Brothers did behind the scenes that basically kneecap that movie into oblivion it's disgusting that they were able to do that to the extent that they did. Like, they killed that movie. They literally killed that movie. That was all studio meddling that destroyed that film. And I've done videos on that before. I've talked about studio meddling and stuff like that, so I'm not going to get into that. But I don't exactly trust Warner Brothers at this point in terms of the idea that they can govern themselves. They can do something without shooting themselves in the foot. So this could just be, their PR people are morons. This could very easily just be that. Or maybe it's a possibility that they want to get the Snyder Cut fans riled up again and get them, talking about a sequel and get more kind of attention to it before they make some kind of an announcement. I think it's again, just a possibility, but that one's a bit more on the slim side because, again, it's Warner Brothers. They're pretty stupid to fucking begin with. But regardless of that, I think they should make a sequel to Zack Snyder's Justice League. I don't necessarily know if it'll follow the same lines of the original ideas for the sequel, because I think that things kind of change and get fluid when you go through the creative process like that. But I would like to see where he takes this. I would like to see the Apocalypse invading. I want to see all that shit. I want to see the Justice League fight Apocalypse, because that is the end game. That is their version of Endgame. That should be their version of Endgame. Is Justice League and the Forces of Earth versus Apocalypse. But regardless of that, that's just kind of my opinion on this whole thing of, doing a sequel to the Snyder Cut and, making at least one sequel, maybe two if you can get two out of Warner Brothers. But that's kind of my opinion on it. I want to know what yours is. Put your thoughts in the comments below. Did you like the Snyder Cut? Did you not like the Snyder Cut? Would you like to see a sequel? Would you not? Do you think it's fine the way it is? Put your thoughts down there. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button. Subscribe. And remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?